This year's budget work sessions focus on the most substantial financial issues, options, trade-offs, and decisions that the City Council will need to make within each service area to meet the constraints at hand.
I'm Kimberly Branham, Executive Director of Prosper Portland. The community and economic development agencies provide wide-ranging services shaping Portland's growth patterns, built environment, economic opportunities, household stability and prosperity, job growth, affordability, climate action, small businesses, and community vibrancy. You'll hear the service areas focus on increasing housing production available for a full range of incomes and retaining existing affordable housing, cutting climate pollution and building community resilience in the face of our climate emergency, and driving inclusive economic recovery and growth for our city's households, businesses, and commercial districts. In furtherance of these external-facing priorities, the service area has identified two major areas of change management. The first, as the Commissioner mentioned, is designing, implementing, and ensuring the success of the single permitting authority in fiscal year 24-25. This is key to housing production and economic recovery, and it stands as the top organizational priority for the service area, requiring significant focus from a budgetary, personnel, technology, culture building, and system development standpoint. And secondly, building on the assessment and analysis performed over the last year as we identified how internal services and external-facing engagement might be shared across the bureaus. The proposed budget reflects a commitment from each bureau to contribute towards a deeper analysis of opportunities to consolidate or align service delivery across the service areas, with the goal of identifying potential structural changes for implementation in the following fiscal year.
My name is Michael Bonek, Interim Deputy Director for the Portland Housing Bureau. In terms of key accomplishments, you're very familiar with the effort to study and recalibrate the inclusionary housing program, which we are poised to go live with on March 1st. We issued 3 solicitations last year, one focused on the preservation of existing affordable housing, one to help close funding gaps on new developments, and the most recent of which will kick off the redevelopment of the Broadway corridor. And then, of course, work continues to disperse our 2 big housing bonds. The PHB's team's work is not done until the last project converts to permanent financing and all the doors are opened on thousands of new affordable apartments throughout the city. We know that we have a looming funding cliff ahead of us on 2 fronts: the spend down of the 2 housing bonds, both of which are almost fully obligated, and the expiration of existing TIF districts. If we jump to that third challenge, delayed impact of new TIF districts, there's a significant gap in time between the funding cliff ahead and the timing of when we could see any new TIF districts start to generate enough money to restore us to current levels. In the immediate term this year, we'll see federal emergency rent assistance and ARPA funds expire, which eliminates that pool of rent assistance and dramatically reduces the funds available for eviction legal defense programming.
Prosper Portland has been planning for this fiscal year for about a decade, maybe a little bit longer. Knowing that TIF district resources were in front of us, we adopted a 10-year financial sustainability plan in 2015, and we made difficult decisions to reduce staff from 180 to 94. We retooled our investment and asset management approach to optimize financial and community benefits, while we reduced and controlled operating costs and have meaningfully diversified our revenue streams. All right, at a high level, of the $282 million in available resources anticipated this year, we have budgeted for up to $120 million in total expenditures. Under expenditures, Prosper Portland's core programs of about $108 million is focused on inclusive property development through commercial lending, prosperity investment grants, major projects, and asset management. We've got economic development programs that you're well aware of, as well as business lending and infrastructure investments that unlock private development. All of this is enabled by critical operational and administrative support. So to deliver this work, the budget includes a total of 94 FTE and LTE. This is 4 positions fewer than the current year due to some expiring ARPA-supported LTEs as well as constrained budgets. Nearly 2,200 jobs were created, retained, or placed through business retention, expansion, and incentives. More than 1,500 adults and youth were served through workforce development programs, 68% of participants identifying as people of color. More than 800 small businesses were served through the Inclusive Business Resource Network, and 46% of construction project investments were contracted through certified firms, which is more than twice our policy objective. 518 businesses received Prosperity Investment Program grants or Restore or Repair grants, which were critical support. We lent just over $11 million to 32 businesses and property owners, supported 480 jobs in that process, and the production of 53 middle-income housing units. And the events office supported 285 events, which attracted more than 975,000 attendees from Portlanders and visitors. In the next fiscal year, you'll see key focus on business retention and growth, small business support, business district recovery, and inclusive development. As Michael mentioned, we share a number of the same challenges. So those include the delayed impact of any new tax increment finance districts. The sunsetting of ARPA funds impacts within Prosper Portland, the events office, small business supports, and restore repair grants. And then finally, the cannabis fund has been unexpectedly volatile. And so we are anticipating a 22% ongoing reduction. And that funding source supports the Reimagine and Seed Fund programs, which came over to Prosper Portland from Civic Life, and the Inclusive Business Resource Network.
So I'm just going to start with a sort of overview of BPS's revenues and expenses. As you see here on the graphs, our operating budget proposed for next fiscal will be approximately $171 million. So the first sort of challenge that we're facing right now is the future of our graffiti abatement program. Currently, we're spending about $100,000 to $120,000 a month on contracting work just in BPS alone. And at that burn rate, we would basically, with current funding projections for next fiscal year, be out of resources by the fall. So this fall, Council adopted the Climate Investment Plan, which allocated $750 million in climate investments over 5 years.
Hey, Donnie, can I pause you right there?
Yep,
So
yep.
when we're talking about the $500 million, I probably think this is the part of PSF that gives me the most significant discomfort. So has this been ratified by council?
No, Commissioner, the opportunity challenge here was how do we select projects that we can ensure we would make it in our budget process? There were a lot of different projects that were floated to us that may have been interesting, but we didn't have the opportunity to do the analysis and to see if that was even feasible.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of transparency,
Yeah.
this really looked like a dark budget process and substantial amount of funds over multiple years.
Yeah.
It's a significant portion of our city budget now, and really not a lot of light of day on how these decisions were made.
My name is David Kuhnhausen. I'm the interim director at the Bureau of Development Services. I'm going to be talking about BDS's current financial situation and outlook. So there are three key challenges we want to highlight today. The first is a number of factors that are impacting permitting: high interest rates, declining market values in Portland and specifically in the downtown core, and low investor confidence to develop in the city of Portland. The second challenge is our reserve fund and the draw on those reserves. And with reserve levels currently at $29.4 million, this draw is unsustainable. BDS made the difficult decision to lay off 73 employees in the last 3 months to help slow this draw, but without intervention, this decline in revenue combined with rising expenditures will result in our reserves being completely exhausted by fiscal year 25-26, which Commissioner Rubio outlined at the beginning of today's session. The third challenge is that BDS is transitioning from its current state to the new single permitting authority. In order for this new entity to be successful, we really need to be fully funded. Based on the projected burn rate, we're going to run out of money by July or August of 2025.
Let's be clear, this budget is a meltdown budget. This is going to be, I mean, every bureau comes up here and tells us the same thing. You got to fund us additional dollars out of general fund, or we're going to significantly reduce our services. And that is true. And we have made the hard decision to focus on public safety and homelessness. And that means other service areas are going to suffer. That is just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
The key to success is going to be partnership. And as we look at our 90-day emergency declaration around fentanyl between the state, the county, and the city, you know, my hope was we're going to start opening some more doors to longer-term sustained economic partnership as well as operational partnership on that issue. Similarly, around homelessness, through one of the other bureaus we talked about up front, how we're now sustaining about 800 shelter beds that include access to behavioral health services, substance use disorder treatment, public health services, job training, things the city of Portland historically has deferred to the county on, we're now taking up the slack because frankly, we're moving more quickly.
My name is Terry Tyson, and I am the strategy manager for the Permit Improvement Project. So, in the resolution, this body was also very clear about goals. There were many whereas aspirations for what we want to see come out of this. These are just a few of those that I want to review with you. A single point of decision making. It seems like a simple thing, but when you talk about 7 bureaus that are involved in actually submitting a permit, there's a lot of opportunity for conflict. Improved coordination. This is something that has been pointed at over and over by customers and staff alike. And last but not least, just a cohesive end-to-end process that we all understand, that's transparent and predictable, that can help us with our housing shortage and help us with our economic recovery. So customer support, they need predictability, they need clarity, they need to understand what is an extremely complicated process, and they need a website that they can actually navigate to find what is needed. We had a focus group with staff on our website. Staff couldn't even find their way to how to apply for an additional toilet or a tree removal. It needs a lot of attention. The good news is we've started that work on the website. We have a consultant who's going to help us actually create a navigable portal and way to enter that provides swim lanes for applicants and also provides accurate information. We'll have to do some cleanup on the back end. And then we're also really excited about the addition of a Google chatbot. Digital services. So what we're proposing here is that we reorganize how we work around digital services and how we provide and support technology. Our big challenges right now is that we have the products we have are fine. The software we have is fine. They're being used across the country, right? But because we went online so quickly, we don't fully have the capabilities to use these products to their best, right? To operationalize them and leverage them to their best. Regulatory coordination and cleanup. So yes, we do have recap, and that is, I'm so happy to hear that BPS is going to have that as part of their budget. The limitation of that is that it only covers the zoning code, and we have many, many more codes. What we need now is an actual person to keep this going. The permit improvement team has been facilitating it, but we need a person to sustain this, keep it going, and a fairly high-level person who understands code, understands it across the city, how it works. And we also would like to see the scope of work expanded for this group, that they start to do a look back, because as I referred to, the recap only looks at our zoning code. We need to do a look back and look at the conflicts that exist in the other codes and regulations across the city.
This organizing of staffing is really only the beginning, kind of the first big inflection point in getting the entire system where it needs to be. If in fact we were doing this from scratch with a long period of time to get the restructuring that we're doing by July 1st, we would have probably started with business process analysis. So that still needs to happen. Just because we will have all of the staff in one bureau and with a single point of authority does not mean necessarily that the handoffs will be better, that we'll understand where we have redo work. And so that business process is really, really important. David mentioned the funding model. It's clearly broken. The one thing I would add to the discussion earlier about funding is that we're kind of doubly impaired when we lay people off during a bad economic cycle. Invariably, the economic cycle turns and the private sector eats up the staff that we need to bring into the permitting process. So not only are we having to hire people back, but we're having to compete with a private sector that is now activated to do their work. And we find restaffing doubly difficult in those times. And so trying to knock the peaks and valleys off the funding model is really something we need to work on desperately. And then lastly, you see the budget request for the permit improvement team. All of the ongoing projects that have started since the task force started its work a few years back, and Terry's team was brought together to begin to work on those, that work has got to continue. We can't short circuit it just because we put everybody into the same bureau. All of these things need a team of people to keep pushing forward.